these federal contracts are sweetheart insider type deals, and I don't like that either. And I think that's present here too.
Well, Chertoff, as you spoke on the floor, Benjamin Chertoff, former head of Homeland Security, and Alphonse D'Amato, and there's also some Democrats involved, but the former senator, he's been all over TV. We've played the clips admitting he's making money as a consultant to one company and the head of another division of a separate one. I mean, he's admitted it, and then now they put out a press release last week saying he's made no money from it. I mean, should we have congressional hearings about this? Because this looks like, you know, classic corruption where the general orders a missile system and then 2 years later retires and becomes the, the head of that company where he ordered the missiles.
Well, you've hit on something else that I've been very outspoken about on the floor, and that is that the defense contractors hire all the retired admirals and generals, and then they go back and sign on with these big defense contractors and go back and get just ridiculously excessive and expensive contracts for the Pentagon. In fact, I've said in speeches and in committee hearings that I wonder sometimes if there's any conservatives at the Pentagon, and I can say that even though I believe that national defense is probably the most legitimate function of the federal government, but I still hate to see all the waste and insider dealing that's going on with the Defense Department. But going back to Chertoff, there's something funny going on there, in my opinion, because a year ago, in November of last year, he was on Campbell Brown's show on CNN, and he was talking, he was supporting these scanners at that time, and he didn't mention that he had anything to do with any of the companies until Campbell Brown said, well, in the interest of full disclosure, you represent some of these companies, and having been caught, then he said, absolutely, that's correct. In other words, he admitted after she confronted him with it. And so then there was a story in the Washington Post at the first of this year saying that he had this connection, and his firm got some kind of correction, I think they said, for the headline, but not for the story. So there's been some kind of connection with these companies for the Chertoff Group, and now he's claiming that he never made any money off of it. What he may be trying to say, I don't know, that his group made some money or some other people in his firm, but it still looks like a insider-type deal to me.
Well, absolutely. Speaking about the first point you brought up, Congressman, look, the borders are wide open. ABC News reported 2 weeks ago that illegal aliens can walk in and get a TSA waiver and get to rent aircraft. We know that hundreds of boats a week are landing in San Diego and on the island off the coast. That's Associated Press. And that the illegal aliens are just pouring in on the fishing boats. No police, no border patrol. They could care less.
Well, you're exactly right. And what I've said on that is this. We've got plenty of security at the airports right now, but there's always companies and people trying to get more and get you to spend more. But I think now these terrorists would probably do something much more spectacular than bringing down a plane. They'd probably blow up a mall at Christmas, or blow up a major sporting event, or poison a water supply, or even blow up a big city subway system. They kill a lot more people, and I think too we're very vulnerable in cybersecurity. We're so controlled by all the computers and so forth now. So we just can't do. We can't go ridiculously overboard at the airports.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to have minimum wage federal employees that are outside the law and violate due process? Actually, Big Sis, Janet Napolitano, is actually in the news now saying next they want them in malls, trains, boats, buses. We already have TSA doing warrantless searches in areas like New York and Boston. I mean, are we going to have 50 million TSA workers to guard every 7-Eleven? Because, I mean, a real terrorist, I mean, that's just the way it is. The only answer is to have an armed, concealed carry population. You can't put enough police on the streets with machine guns and dogs.
Well, you're exactly right, and I agree with you. It's the TSA has become a bloated bureaucracy. Just a few years ago, it had 16,000 500 employees. Now it's got 61,000 employees, and it's top heavy with administrators and top staff people that I understand on average make 105,000 a year, and it's just gotten out of control, and I hope that a lot more people than me will speak out on this. But in fact, and I think they will. I'll tell you, I was asked on television just a few weeks ago what was the biggest change I'd seen in my time in office, and I said, without any question, it's that almost everybody who keeps up with this stuff now is more concerned, worried, upset, angry, whatever you want to say, about the financial condition of the federal government and our deficits and our debt. And I think more and more people are beginning to realize that we can't just go crazy in spending. A university professor, University of Pennsylvania professor, wrote an article for the Hill newspaper about a year ago, and he said that the war on terror, that the spending was now far exceeding the threat, and that it had become a major profit center and a funding bonanza for federal and state agencies, corporations, nonprofit groups, and so forth. And as I said earlier, this is all more about money and power than it is about any real threat or real security.
Well, if this continues, we'll have to change the American flag to basically an image of a sheep or a ostrich with its head in the sand, and we'll have to get rid of the American eagle and replace it with an ostrich. I mean, since when did the land of the free, home of the brave get like this, where we're so afraid of men in caves, we've got a better chance from dying from a bee sting or an automobile accident. Hundreds die a year from bees and wasp stings. And I mean, it's just so crazy to see the federal government expanding its power. But you're a congressman. You study these issues more than I have. I know that the airlines opt in to have the TSA there. Some airlines are saying, and some airports are saying, they don't want them now. But I mean, at the end of the day, where do you see this backlash going? And what are your biggest problems, Congressman, with what the TSA is doing? And isn't this a 10th Amendment violation to have them on the streets of America and announcing that they want to expand what they're doing?
Well, we have expanded all of these federal law enforcement agencies far beyond what they should be, far beyond what is necessary. I mean, the FBI, I mean, I have an uncle whom I love very much who many years ago started his career as an FBI agent, and he was just with them for a few years. But I'll tell you, we've expanded that agency far beyond what's necessary, and most of the real law enforcement work is done by local law enforcement people in the first place. And I've even said, for instance, that one agency that we should do away with is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and now they've added on the word explosives to it to try to expand their mission. But everything that they do is done best by state and local law enforcement people. And one expert told me that they're nothing but paper pushers now. But I heard you say yesterday that bee sting analogy, and I was very impressed by that. I have told people that you really are thousands of times, many thousands of times more likely to be killed on the driving on the highways than you are by a terrorist. And the problem we're into is this, Alex. It's almost impossible to get Big Brother federal government to ever admit making a mistake or ever go back on anything. And we've given so much power in this country to unelected bureaucrats. In fact, I've said many times that today, unfortunately, we have a government up by and for the bureaucrats instead of up by and for the people. And so it's going to be very hard to get them to go back very far on this. They're already squirming, though, and saying, well, they're going to tweak this a little bit. But I've had other concerns about this. The radiation factor. There are several million frequent flyers who on average fly twice a week and getting full body doses. The TSA is trying to say, oh well, it's not it's just a tiny little dose. But I'll tell you, they give you more protection at the dentist. When I go to the dentist, they put a little shield over my neck and chest and so forth, and this is a full body radiation thing. And then I think parents have a legitimate concern about not only the radiation, but also having unfamiliar people grope or feel their children in private type places. I think it's terrible.
Well, I agree with you, Congressman, and I've had radiologists on the show. We've got the New York Times, top scientists, federal bodies, the International Atomic Energy Agency have said that these things have 50 times what the TSA claimed a year ago. They've been lying, and if you look at the images TSA has released, to give you an idea, you can see the hands, and you can see the bones in the hands, and that's exactly what radiologists have told me on and off air, is that they've looked at the calibrations. It's about like a dental skull X-ray. It's not approaching a chest X-ray, but it's close, and it's the repeated exposure, and they've got all these top scientists on record saying bare minimum skin cancers, and that it'll exacerbate people that are already prone to skin cancers. What about the TSA workers who are around it all day? They're not hiding behind any lead shielding. But, Congressman, what about this issue? Ron Paul, we had him on yesterday, and you said you heard it.
Right.
But you know, I said, so you've had enhanced pat-down? He said, yes. I said, they've touched your crotch? He said, yes, it's disgusting. That's on the Drudge Report today, the video and audio of that. But now the TSA told ABC News maybe that goes too far. Hand in the pants. I mean, this is insane. And now people are stripping down into their underwear as a protest. The TSA is still rubbing their skin, rubbing their kneecaps where they have metal in them to make sure it's really metal. I mean, this is like the sacrificing our liberty on the altar of big government, Congressman. But my issue is that now it's discriminatory because Boehner, it's video of it on the news. He gets to go around the checkpoint. A lot of other Congress people, they're not releasing the full list, but it's in the AP. The White House says they won't release who it is. But now if you're a bigwig, you get a pass, but the citizens don't. Here's the headline. TSA, some government officials to skip airport security. A, do you get to bypass it? And B, what's your view of this?
Well, no, I don't get to bypass it, and I saw that in the paper myself. I hadn't even heard that part until I saw that this morning on the news, and I assume that they're giving a pass to the top cabinet officials and the top administration officials and the leaders of the House and Senate, the top 5 in the House and the top 4 in the Senate. I assume that that's what it is, but nobody, if we're going to have it, nobody at the top level should be given a pass. But there's other concerns that go along with that. For instance, I understand that already people who say they don't want to go through the scanning, that some TSA people are resentful about having to do that, and so they're being almost rude or irritable or hateful in doing these.
No, they're rough. They're rough. They squeeze hard. That's confirmed. Right,
and then I have this concern also that the plans are right now to purchase 1,800 of these scanners by various departments and agencies by the year 2014. And what I can see coming is that they'll end up buying several thousand of these things and wanting to put them in all the federal buildings for when you go in, any federal building, and all these department agencies, they all want to get all the latest gizmos and so forth. But there is one good thing that may come out of this, hopefully, and it would be that number one, that more people would begin to realize that just because the word security is mentioned doesn't mean that it's necessary or that it's good or that it's not acceptable.